Hello. In this clip from our Justia webinar, AI in Law, exploring 30 plus game changing use cases in 60 minutes, Greg Siskin shares the final set of 10 AI use cases, from asking legal ethics questions and finding expert witnesses to prompt engineering and writing biographies for lawyers' profiles. If you want to see more Justia videos on law practice and legal marketing, be sure to subscribe to our channel.
Legal ethics. So this is one that I think a lot of people probably wouldn't. I guess lawyers are thinking like all the ethical implications of using these tools, but actually it's quite good at just answering sort of basic legal ethics questions. So one of the things that we developed for our product for immigration lawyers is there's this 700-page, our content partner is the American Immigration Lawyers Association, and they publish an extensive ethics compendium, they call it, for immigration law, and it's like, I think, 700 or 800 pages, and it gets into a lot of depth as far as how the different rules apply to immigration law scenarios. I have that uploaded, as well as, say, for example, in my state, Tennessee, the Tennessee Rules of Professional Conduct, and then our state gave us permission to include our state's ethics opinions in our AI. So I have a prompt that's set up where you can give a hypothetical fact pattern, and then you're limiting the answers to that treatise, as well as the state ethics rules and the ethics opinions. But you can do this on your own, just with the ethics rules in your state, and maybe the ethics opinions, depending on whether they make them available for members, and put in a fact pattern and see how it does on there. But it usually gives a pretty good answer, and it'll also cite to you can tell it in the prompt to cite to the specific rule that you're asking it, that it's citing, that it's using to inform the answer. I know a lot of lawyers. I've actually talked to, I presented in May to the ABA Center for Professional Responsibility, which was a room of about 500 ethics specialists, and it was a little intimidating to be on the stage talking about this kind of stuff. But I did talk to a lot of them in the halls, and they said that every state has a hotline that lawyers can call, and a lot of lawyers do not call the hotline for various reasons, and it's a source of frustration for these boards. And also, some of these states have trouble with manning the hotlines. They have to recruit volunteer lawyers to do it, and it's not always that easy. The idea here is that lawyers, instead of just sort of winging it, that at least they'll have the ability to ask and sort of go through. They'll know what ethics rules are raised, and kind of can see through the analysis here and read the rules themselves, and hopefully get to a better place than they would if they're not going to be calling the state boards in the first place. But anyway, that might be something that is interesting to some of you. AI is also, it's not really a use case directly, but it is on there. This is just a sampling of a dozen products that I'm guessing that for most of you, that there is excuse this extraneous comments that are in this slide. I'll fix it. But, just some products that a lot of lawyers happen to use. And they all have generative AI features that are built in now. Some of them are more robust in that regard than others and can do more things. But it's the idea here is that you are probably already using software that is incorporating some of this functionality into it. And you might want to experiment with that. A lot of you probably are thinking about Microsoft Copilot. It is, I think, $30 a month extra on top of it. But it can be, if you want to use these kinds of tools, for example, within Outlook or within a Word, or I used Copilot extensively for this slide deck, as far as helping me come up with art. Some of the art that you're seeing came from Microsoft Copilot, and that's but it shows up in a lot of different places. So just expect to see more and more of that. Things like QuickBooks, I think, Clio are really interesting in this regard because Clio, I did get to see a demo of that. I went to ClioCon last year, and it was pretty interesting on how you could ask. I was talking before about exporting a report for your case management system and uploading it and getting insights. But Clio is actually building some of that kind of functionality within the product itself, where you can get insights into your data, and that will improve more and more. So you may be able to get more and more insights into like strategies and all kinds of things from being able to pull information from the cases themselves. QuickBooks obviously is another one where if you're trying to really understand your economic performance, your financial performance, having those kinds of capabilities there can be something that could be pretty helpful. ChatGPT plugins is also another one that's not per se a use case, because there's a million use cases that come from ChatGPT plugins. But basically what I'm talking about here, within ChatGPT, you now have the ability to link it up with other tools, so that it can pull data, for example, from specialized data sets. It can perform certain kinds of tasks that it won't do as well with the tool. So, for example, one thing that the struggles with ChatGPT is sometimes math on there. And there's a plugin called Wolfram Alpha, which is a database site, and it has lots of interesting data reports in there. I gave just a couple of examples here. There are thousands of they call them GPTs now. I don't think they call them plugins anymore. But if you go into ChatGPT, there's a link in there where you can actually see a sort of a running catalog of productivity tools and all sorts of other categories that it has available. But the one that probably you'll use the most is the web browser connection. So ChatGPT, one of the limitations that it has on its own is it's only combed the web up until about a year and a half ago, so it won't be that great for current things. But with a web plugin, you can ask it things, ask it to do tasks based on things that have only come up recently. DALL-E, by the way, I do have a slide on this later on, but that's the plugin that is their illustration tool. So just go and explore some of those, and you might find that some of them can be quite helpful. RFPs. I don't know how many of you are in law firms that get requests for proposals. Depends obviously on the kind of practice that you're in. Our firm does, and we've started developing prompts that are helping us to more quickly turn around proposal requests from companies or institutions like universities, and also not just more quickly turn them around, but take a lot of the workload off of us as far as the drafting. So this is an RFP response prompt that I've created that will give a rough idea, but basically the idea here is you upload the RFP, and then you can, within the prompt, it can tell you, and you can tell it to be interactive and interview you as far as collecting information that it needs. And then you can ask it to section by section start generating the response text for you. But it is something I think that a lot of firms can think about as far as how to, especially if you get these proposals regularly, these request proposals, request for proposals, that you should think about using a tool like this. Maybe to help you be a little less burdensome as far as responding. Expert witness, that's one that I actually needed recently to help one of our lawyers in one of their cases, and we did it in Google's product, thinking that it had access to sort of a wider data set and would be a little bit more current, but I think you can do this in ChatGPT a lot more easily than you used to as well. But this was just an example of the kind of expert that we needed to help us on a particular case. So, you can, the point here is that you can sort of give it a natural language request for what you're looking for in a way and get an answer that might be a lot more on the mark than you would with just Google searching, which is probably how a lot of you have been taking on a test like that before. Which one are we on? Number 26. Oh, again, we're doing good on time on there. And I'll have maybe a couple of bonus tips for you if we run through all of these. Biography writer. I'm sure you have at one point or another. I mean, if you have a LinkedIn profile, if you have to provide bios for when you have speaking opportunities, etc. And a lot of cases you have word limits. It can be a chore to do that. And this is just more of a technique than a prompt itself as far as how you might approach using a tool like this. But basically, if a lot of us will keep our LinkedIn profile about as up to date as anything that we have. And there is a way that you can export your LinkedIn profile into a PDF document. You can go in and find that in LinkedIn. There's ways to do that. You can also just screenshot your bio in LinkedIn if you needed to, or you could cut and paste it into another kind of document. Doesn't matter how you do it, but if you can upload that, if you can get that, you can upload that into one of these language models like ChatGPT, and you can then tell it what kind of bio you want. Give you a Wikipedia style article about yourself. You could tell it to give you a more extensive one or a shorter one. You can also ask it to give you suggestions for ways that you might improve your LinkedIn profile to be, to do a better job. You can use it to draft the biography of yourself that's on your law firm's website, using that kind of stuff. But it is something that is it's a nice aid as far as working on that kind of project. Okay, prompt engineering. So this one is it may surprise some of you. That's like, I thought that's I need to always have somebody give me a good prompt, or I have to come up with it myself. But the best prompt engineer that I know is actually ChatGPT, where you actually just tell it what the task that you're wanting it to do, and then asking it to draft something for you. And this is the prompt I have when I want ChatGPT to write me a better prompt than I could come up with on my own. And it has brackets to that you can fill in. Now, obviously, I've showed you some that don't require a whole lot of detail, and you don't really need, I think, in those cases, like summarization, to have a very elaborate prompt. But it may be that the task that you're trying to have it help you with is more complicated. So, for example, we were using ChatGPT to help us at our law firm to, develop. We were doing retreats and trying to develop a strategic plan for the firm, and we used a prompt like this to help us as far as drafting that plan. And along the way, of course, of the day of exercises and all that, we were then focusing on the individual sections of that plan, and it was giving us a lot of helpful suggested language along the way. But the point on this slide is that you are, in a lot of cases, if you don't know how to write a good prompt for what you're trying to do, don't worry. Ask the AI to give you some assistance in that regard. You'll be surprised in a lot of cases of how good it is. And then after you try it out, if it's not giving you really kind of the output you were hoping, then you go back and tell it to draft me another prompt this time and focus on this, or I don't want, on this, but after you've tried it out, you should be able to get a better result. Okay. Creating company policies. So I have been using this this use case for quite some time. Our AI use policy that our firm has, I developed that spring of last year, and started with started. I think I actually had the practice management prompt help me, the one I showed you earlier, with coming up with an initial issue, list of things to discover. But I mean, that you wanted to have the prompt do. But the this can be quite good for any kind. So I have here just one that produced a pretty good document. We needed to have a dress code, we were looking at revisiting that. And we were trying to figure out how to come up with a dress code policy. And it did a pretty nice job with just this language, and the prompt for what we ended up, eventually using. The AI use case prompt, by the way, if anybody wants to see our use policy, I'm happy to email it to you. And you can see it has, among other things, aside from sort of having the introduction for employees of what these tools do, what are the prohibitions and the legal ethics. We also have a training module that it created that was tied to the policy. That's about an hour long, that broke it down, basically in 5-minute increments on what we were going to be doing over the course of the hour and what we had to teach. But just send me a note and I can send you that use policy if you don't have one in your firm, which I would highly recommend that you do. Okay, next. Creating images. So I've done some with this. I actually have developed a series of images on examples of immigrants in America, and I asked it to do it in a Pixar style. I used DALL-E, which is OpenAI's image generation tool. But the course of usually I'm really just given pretty basic instructions on, like, make me, literally that would have been the image. But you may have seen some of these these generators that, some of these AI generated art that are really good and really, and you may and then you try it out and it looks like garbage. I'm not sure. Maybe it's okay, but I actually asked ChatGPT to help come up with a list of things that you do, basically elements that you could say in the prompt that might get you a better image than what you might do on your own. So maybe you're trying to come up with a new logo idea for your firm, or you're trying to come up with illustrations for a blog post, or whatever it is that you're doing. These are things that you can describe in your prompt for what you're looking at, to hopefully get you a better idea. And for me, I'm not at all artistic, so I wouldn't even think about half of these issues. But at least with these prompts or these questions that are here, you might be able to get a better version of a document. The version of the image than you would otherwise. If you just say, draft me a picture of a kid throwing a baseball or something like that, and you never know what you're going to get. The last one is sort of like a fun tip, but it's one that I just had a lot. My wife and I, we just had our big anniversary, we married 30 years. We took a trip to Greece, and I didn't want to be carrying around guidebooks or try and sift through them. But I had my phone, and we used ChatGPT fairly extensively in the course of that trip to help us along the way. So some of the things that it was doing that were pretty cool, like I would say, we're staying at the ABC hotel in Athens or whatever city it was in. We want a 3 to 4 hour walking tour from our hotel, and we wanted to emphasize history or shopping or whatever. One day it was like 100 degrees, and we just said, find some indoor activities along the way. We asked it to suggest restaurants, and then we told it what kinds of cuisine that we liked, and there was a vegetarian in the group, and we talked about we asked it to find places that had good vegetarian selections. Anyway, the idea is that it's basically like having your concierge in your phone along the way designing all this stuff. I've asked it to on that tour. I asked it to design. I'm a runner, and asked it to design some running trails and running routes for me in different places where I would have interesting things to look at. I'm leaving from this location, and I have I want to run this particular distance. But it's just did a really nice job on that. You can as well ask it follow-up questions. So we would see, for example, a statue or something like that it told us to look at, and then we would ask it to give us, and with the mobile version of this, you can just ask with your microphone to give us more details and explain to us a little bit more about what we were looking at or why it was significant on there. So it is a really good travel companion. I would recommend trying it out for that.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy it, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more videos on law practice and legal marketing. See you in our next clip.